Hello! Today we're going to start our Halloween prompt responses in our sketchbook that I made out of cardstock that just happens to have 32 pages, so it's perfect. So first we have to start with the cover. I sketched out a little scene with a cat and a bat and a pumpkin patch. And then let's use watercolors and paint the sky blue. So we need to mix up some lightish blue. And then we'll paint the ground brown for the pumpkin patch. And then let's use our acrylic markers and draw a moon that's not very round. So let's use this lid of a glue stick and paint the moon round. And then let's write Halloween 2025 because we're gonna do this every year. Maybe not. I meant to write it bigger. If I was going to write it this small, I could have just put it all in one line. But that's okay. And then let's draw a cat. He's like a brownish, goldish cat. And then we need our pumpkins. So let's draw a couple of pumpkins with this orange acrylic marker. And then we can use another orange marker and do the outsides and some details on the pumpkins. And then outline the words with a brownish orange. Yeah, okay. And then let's draw a bat in the moon. He's flying in the moonlight. And then I decided that the cat is wearing a vampire costume. So let's draw that and his little cape. And the white came out too fast for his teeth, so he has very big teeth. And then let's get some more blue watercolor and make the sky a little bit darker because it's nighttime. And then let's use some green markers to draw the vines and leaves on the pumpkins. It's a pumpkin patch. And then let's make some more brown watercolor and go over the ground again and make it a little bit darker in the back. And then we can go over the words again, make them stand out a little bit more. And then I was going to stop here, but I decided that I needed something else, so I came back and made some trees in the background. So I used like a light bluish gray and painted a few background trees with just branches, no leaves. And then made it a little bit darker and drew some more trees. And we can add some more branches to the ones in the front. And some more trees over here by the cat. And since the moon was acrylic marker, the watercolor doesn't go over it, so it looks like the trees are behind the moon. And then we can make these trees in the front a little bit darker. So it looks like it's a forest. And then let's use a different green and go over the vines again. And let's use another orange and go over the pumpkins again. On the lines for the different parts of the pumpkin, so they stand out a little bit more. And then a darker green for the vines. And let's add some more leaves. It's kind of the same picture that I drew last year for October, with the bat and the cat and the pumpkins. But last year's had a fence and it was only 2 pumpkins, not a pumpkin patch. So I guess it's a little bit different. And then let's go over the pumpkins one more time. And the cat a little bit, and draw his feet better. And there's our cover. Day 1. Let's see what we get. Harpy. Well, okay. What's a harpy? A harpy is a woman-shaped eagle, or an eagle-shaped woman. So I sketched out a little eagle-shaped woman with the wings open, and maybe she's standing on some rocks. So I sketched it in the sketchbook. Some rocks, and maybe there's some water down here. And then let's see what colors. Well, it's a girl, so let's try this pink. Don't forget the little feet. So I painted it pink, but yeah, I don't know. This sketch wasn't great. The wings aren't really the same size or shape, but that's okay. These markers work really well. This is the back side of the cardstock. So let's draw some rocks that she's standing on. And some more rocks down here in the water area. And we can use the marker to draw like the shadows and highlights by just going over it again to make it darker. And then we need some blues for the water. And let's try this one. So we'll go around the rocks and make some water. And then we can make it like darker in the back. I like how the markers made it a little streaky so it kind of looks like water. And then maybe some purple mountains in the background. But they're all the same height, so that's okay. And then we can do the same thing with the marker, so go over it again in the front where you want it to be darker. And then again for the ones in the really front. Let's go over the water again and make it a little bit darker. And outline the rocks that she's standing on that got covered up when I made the mountains. And then let's try this blue for the sky. Now the water's kind of a greenish blue, so I think this blue will work. And then I just covered up the harpy. Maybe I should have left it like this, where you can just barely see it. It's okay like this, the mountains and the rocks, and it looks okay. But we have to finish the harpy, so let's try acrylic markers. We have pinks and oranges. Let's see which one works well. So let's try pink because she was pink. So I went over the wings again with this pink marker. And I outlined the bird shape of her wings and drew the little legs. And then I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it really. I wanted like a gradient for the wings. I had a really hard time with this one. Maybe because it was the first one. Maybe it's because I don't know what a harpy is. I don't know. So then I got this pink and tried to do the body with a lighter pink so that then I could make the gradient for the wings. But yeah, I don't know. So I did that, and then I got this pink and tried to do like the tops of the wings, and I was going to blend it in with a different color. Then I got this darker pink and tried to do the middle part of the wings, the feathers. And then I went over the body again because it looked too different from the wings. It's actually not bad right here. I probably could have stopped right here too. But I kept going with a different pink and just covered that all up again. And then I put some more in the wings to try to make like the feathers, where it would have different feathers. But it kind of just looks spotty. So I went over them again. And then I went back to the rocks and put some more shadows on the rocks so they would look kind of squarish. And then the mountains in the front, went over them again too, so they would pop out more. And then I drew her face, 2 eyes and a smiley face. And then she needs hair, right? Because it's a woman-shaped eagle. So I drew some hair with this light pink marker. And it was okay. But then I went over it again with a darker purple, because I wanted her hair to have a gradient also. And that did not work as well. Now it's just like a clump of hair. But okay. Then I picked this pink marker, which came out really, really fast. So it pretty much just covered up everything. So I decided to just cover up everything and make it all this color. So now she's like a reddish pink with purple hair. Yeah. And there we go. So let's cut out the word, make it a little bit smaller so it fits better on the page. And there's our harpy. Yeah. Day 2. Let's see what we get. Altar. Okay, what's an altar? So I looked it up, but I just kept thinking of the altars in Neo, so I looked that up, and that's kind of what we're going with. We want it to be green. So let's sketch out maybe some woods with a little structure in the middle. That's our altar. So some trees in the background and then a little slab where the altar sits. So it has to be green, so let's get some watercolors. And mix up some green. I wanted it to be like a glowing, like an eerie green. But I think I put too much water because it was very thin, and this is the front side of the cardstock now, so it really absorbed and just it made it a very light green. But that's okay. We could go over it again later, or we could just make it a little bit green. Then I put some gray in with the green. I made it like a darker teal green, but it was still too much water, so it's very light. But yeah, we have our eerie green forest background. And then let's use some grayer gray and paint the little stone slab where the altar sits. It's like a 3-tiered slab. And then let's use some brown and make like the altar shape. And then some trees. These trees also don't have leaves, it's just branches. And we can make the ones in the front a little bit darker. And then the altar needs like a house shape, so let's paint the roof. And then add some more paint to our trees. As they dry, we'll add more paint. And then let's get our markers, and we'll need some candles. So we'll use this like off-white and draw some candles. 4 candles, 2 on each side. It's a good color for candles, that works. And then we have this gold marker. Then let's get a brown marker and kind of go over the house shape so it's more straight. And then draw some little shingles on the roof. And then let's go over the stone slab. I had trouble with like the proportions or the perspective of the, because it looks like it's not a house, it's just like the front part of a house. So I went over the stone slab a little bit and tried to make it look like something could sit on it. I don't know. It kind of looks better because there's more space behind the columns. Yeah. So now something could sit on it, I guess. Then we use the gold marker to go over the shingles on the roof part so they stand out a little bit more. And then let's use the brown marker and draw a couple of other trees in the front so they'll really stand out more because they're in the front and it's a marker. Then we need flames on the candles. So I got 4 colors out and I wanted to make 4 colored flames, but they mix together so it works better with just 3. You just need an orange, a yellow, and a red. So we'll draw the little flames on the little candles. And then we can use the gold marker and put little trays that are holding the candles. And then we need another tree here, so I use the brown marker. And one here. That's actually not too bad for a forest. And then I wanted some of the trees to be gold. I should have maybe drawn another tree. Instead, I just went over these 2 on the edges. So now they're gold trees. Yeah. And then we need something to sit in the altar. So I drew a cat. I don't know if it's a real alive cat that's sitting on it or if it's part of the altar and it's a statue of a cat. But it's a gold cat with big feet. And then I drew his little face and used this light brown to go over like his ears and give him just a little bit of details, some furs. and some outlines on his feet, his giant feet. Okay, and then let's cut out our word, and here's our altar. Day 3. Let's see what we get. Zombie. Okay. So I looked up some cute zombies, and they were all like kids or young people type zombies. So we're gonna go with a cat. So let's sketch a cat. I kind of had this idea at the very beginning of this idea that every page would have a cat on it. I probably should have done that with the harpy. Maybe it would have turned out better. So yeah, let's draw a cat. A cat that is a zombie. Maybe it's a costume or something. I don't know. So let's sketch our cat. It's a big cat, and he's standing. And his little paws are out. And we know that zombies are green, so let's make him green. Yeah, so the point of a sketch is so that you know where to put the paint or the markers. So if your sketch is not good, it doesn't help you when you go to paint it or marker it. So I changed the sketch a few times. It looks a little bit better now. It's at least proportional, I guess. So let's go in with the markers and make him green. And at first I was trying to make it like smoother color application, but it kind of works where it overlaps because it kind of looks like fur. If you're more intentional with where you're putting those overlaps, it could look more like fur. Now we can erase our pencil sketch and give him a tail. And then let's go over like his arms and the outside a little bit more so it looks like his belly is a lighter green. And now it looks more like fur. And let's go over his ears again and give him some little furs on the outsides. Now we can use the darker green marker and draw the little stitches on him and put some more furs and his little face. And then I used the black marker for his eyes. Now, where is he? Maybe he's inside, so let's draw the floor part gray. Maybe it's like a cement floor, but he's inside somewhere. It's hard to cover a big area with these markers, but it does kind of work. It makes its own highlights. And then let's draw some tiles, maybe some square tiles. So we'll use a ruler. And make some tiles. Yeah. And what color should they be? Maybe blues? Blue tiles? So let's use the light blue first and kind of make our square tiles. There's no space for the grout, I guess. I don't know. other tiles. Okay, and then we can use the darker blue and draw the other tiles. And then this will cover up any of the light blue where I went over the lines, and just cover it up with the darker blue. And then it'll look like the edges are darker, where the tiles meet. It's a little hard to get in the edges where the pages meet because I used a giant shoelace to tie them together, but that's okay. And then let's go over his claws on his paws again, where they got covered a little bit by the tile, and outline his arms and legs. And just go over his little furs a little bit. He's kind of cute. And his little paws are out, like he's taking a picture or something. And then we need some little eye highlights with our white marker. And let's cut out our word. And there's our zombie. Day 4. Let's see what we get. Mummy. Okay, well, since we're right here next to our zombie, let's make a mummy that matches our zombie. So, a cat. And maybe we'll use purples and oranges. And we'll need the gray for the floor. And then, okay, let's sketch our cat. Our mummy cat. So he's going to be standing in the same position that the zombie cat is standing, with his little arms out. And then he'll have like bandages going around him because he's a mummy. And let's make him this light purple. It's okay, it's a sketchbook. A sketchbook is ideas for later, so they don't need to be masterpieces in your sketchbook. They're just ideas for later. So color him in with this light purple and make it look like furs a little bit. And then we can use the darker purple for his face and the edges and draw some little furs. And outline his arms and legs. and then erase our pencil lines and draw the floor. I didn't want to draw exactly where the other floor is. Maybe they're not in the same room, they're at the same place. I don't know. We don't know yet. But it's the same floor, but not in the same room floor. I don't know how many more floors I can make with this marker. It seems to be running a little dry. But that's okay, it works. Okay, and then we'll need our square tiles, which I also didn't want to be exactly the same as the other page. So I started them a little bit differently so that they would be different. Okay, and then we're gonna use oranges for the tiles because orange and purple or something, they go together or something. So we'll do the light orange ones first and try to stay inside the pencil lines, but if not, it's okay, we'll fix it with the other color. Little orange tiles. Alright, now let's use the darker orange and go over the other tiles. Okay, and then we need our bandages. So let's use this off-white and just draw some bandages around him. The marker wasn't really working very well, but I kept trying. I shook it. And then I drew over his nose. I didn't mean to draw over his nose. I wanted it to go over his nose, on top of his nose. But instead it covered up his nose. But it's okay, he still has a nose. It's just covered. But he can still breathe out of his mouth. And then we'll make some bandages around his belly and down to his feet, and then around his arms. I didn't want them to be white bandages, so that's why I wanted to use this off-white marker, but yeah, we're gonna have to use the white. So go over the bandages again and make them whiter. Does he look like a mummy? Alright. Then let's go over his face details a little bit more and make his eyes and his mouth at least. And then some white highlights for his eyes. And let's cut out the word and glue it to the bottom. And there's our mummy. Hooray! Thanks for watching. Have a happy day.